Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about posing. So I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York. I make videos like this about technique, philosophy. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe. So I get this question a lot, and I can't do a video where I'm actually posing somebody because the pandemic is going on and there's nobody around. But one thing that I really thought of was like, how do I come up with ways to pose people? I started dissecting kind of how I work because I can tell you this. I'm not the kind of person that would recommend getting some kind of posing book or using some kind of formula like this is the posing guide and turn this person this way. You can do that. Plenty of people do that style. It's really super effective, I think, if you are doing like kind of generic posing. Like, let's say you're shooting like high school portraits. You kind of, you're shooting 50 people a day, and you really, this is the right pose for the turn your face this way, or that kind of stuff, or posing large groups, and you want to use that kind of straight up. But most of the time, when I'm dealing with people, they're kind of, we'll call them unique character portraits. I'm not shooting somebody super quickly in a posed kind of standard way. And I think that's what people are asking about. If you're talking about the other stuff, there's plenty of posing guides out there that you can certainly take a look at. But it's not my thing. That's not the way I normally operate. Even when I'm shooting like business people, like see corporate portraits, that kind of stuff. My whole style of posing and working with people is generally based on how they naturally stand, sit, lean, etc. What I'm going to do when I see somebody for the first time is I'm going to pay attention to that. This is key. I think paying attention to your subject while you're engaging in them and making that kind of connection in the beginning, anyways, because again, we're not talking about this 50 people a day stand there pose. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to find out a little bit about their background. I'm going to get involved in a conversation with them. And I've mentioned this many times before. The last thing I do is pick up my camera. I set up lights. I talk to them. We hang out. I do all those things. I even sometimes have people move around inside the light without any camera at all. I don't bring the camera up. The reason why is because the camera is the one item I think that if you're working with people who aren't models, that's the breaking point, right? That's where they might be like, oh, these lights, whatever. But when you put the camera up is when they're going to be like, you know, that's basically where they hit that moment. So the camera is something I don't break out right away. I want to get them comfortable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see how they stand, sit, etc., just naturally. And then I'm going to modify that, right? So what I want to do is I want to take their natural kind of tendency to lean a certain way or whatever, and then I want to either adjust them slightly so that they now fit the ideal pose. In other words, if somebody's like has their arm a certain way, you don't want it to be like flat to the whatever. You want to use angles and stuff like that, because angles and separation is key in posing. Basically, when you're looking at somebody, and this has to do with your lighting too, what you don't want to do is lose the edge of somebody. I think this actually comes. This is kind of a weird side thing that I do. This actually happens too as how people dress themselves. You find oftentimes when people are overweight, because this is generally the questions I'm going to get, people that are a little bigger form, they tend to wear baggy clothes because they're trying to cover up the fact they're overweight. But in fact, wearing baggy clothes makes you actually seem more overweight. You're better off wearing something, not skin tight clothes, but clothes that fit you properly. Same thing with lighting, right? We don't want to try to like hide them necessarily with shadow, because if we do, what we're going to do is create this situation where people don't know where their body ends. And since you're going to be able to tell somebody's overweight by their face and stuff that you're not going to be able to deal with, they're going to not know, right? You're better off showing exactly where it ends, the body ends, with your lighting. And then, put with a slight twist, you can kind of narrow out the width of somebody or whatever. And again, that's without a person here to show, that'd be hard to say, but just think about it like that. You want to show the edges of people, and you want to make that edge as flat as possible. You don't want flat things, meaning like you don't want flat at the camera. You want, right? You see how my hand, right, looks more narrow the more I turn it that way, right? Because it is, in fact. So same thing with a person. Somebody who's overweight, as you turn them, they will start to look. And now this is basically the bottom half of them. I can't do it with my hand because I'm not double jointed, but then they turn their face, and even shoulders towards you, and that creates that S shape, whatever that creates it. That's like posing 101 basic stuff. But, beyond that, like getting a good pose is really about interacting, right? It's about seeing the person. Some of the most famous photos of celebrities or people that we think of as famous photos are these like in between moments, right? They're when you catch something somebody's doing naturally. So that's what we want to move towards that. We want to create that. So what I recommend is you look at how somebody naturally does things. You give them lots of compliments about it. Oh, I love the way that you lean on the thing because you do. That's what you're noticing, right? And work from that. The other thing too that you could do, this is more for modeling than it is for like a normal person, is have them go through emotion. Like you might say, so turn this way, or have your eyes closed and then open and then smile, something like that. Like, and usually people will say in posing things, never tell somebody to smile. I don't believe that either, but you want to put something in their mind and have them work into it as opposed to them just locking it in because sometimes the building up to or the fading away from is better than the actual pose. So that's kind of my philosophy in general on this. I'll probably do more videos about this actually when I get a person, which is what my plan was long term, but lots of plans have gone out the window. So I will eventually do some kind of a guide, even though I just said at the beginning, don't do a posing guide, but I'll do it a little bit more in the style I'm talking about because I think that's much more useful to people in a practical sense. Because honestly, if you're just copying a diagram, whether it be a lighting diagram or a posing diagram, you're still going to have to understand why that works so that you can adjust it based on the person that's in front of you. That's really the thing. Everybody is unique, everybody is different. So keep that in mind with your lighting, with your posing, with how you interact with people. If you do that, then that'll make you a better portrait photographer. What I always say is, I'm a people photographer, which means I have to be a people person, right? You want to be in with people, be friendly, get people to loosen up in front of you so that they'll be natural. In any case, if you haven't already, guys, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.